In this lesson, we're going to take a look at an IPS or IDS log, and we're basically going to do that by using a sample question to see if you can understand how to take apart one of these questions during your exam. Now, in this question, we're going to be asked which of the following event IDs represents the biggest threat to your organization's enterprise network and should be investigated immediately by the organization's cybersecurity analysts. Then we see a whole bunch of different events here, and we see the date, the time, the severity, the event ID, the description, and the action taken. Based on all of this, you would get a multiple choice question with 4 different event IDs, and you would then select out of those event IDs which one is the most severe for your organization. But to make this a little bit more challenging, we're not going to give you 4 choices here. I'm actually going to let you choose from any of these event IDs to see if you're correct. So what I'd like you to do here is pause the video for a moment and then come back when you have the event ID that you think is the most severe, and then I'm going to give you the right answer and explain why it was right. All right, are you back with me now? You ready to see the right answer? Well, the right answer here is actually going to be one of the high severity ones. But which one? There's actually 6 different high severity alerts here that were detected by this IDS or IPS, and in this case, because it has blocking action, we know this is an IPS, or an intrusion prevention system, and not an IDS, an intrusion detection system. So which of our 6 highs is going to be the one that is the most dangerous for us? Well, in this case, it's actually going to be the data exfiltration detection at line 4130. Now, it's not just because this was a high severity though, because we had 6 different high severities. So let's take a look at each of those 6, and then we can talk about why data exfiltration was the right answer. Now, the first high we had was up at the second line, which is line 4105, and you see the description as an SQL injection attack detected. Now, normally that would be a very severe thing because it has to do with our database, and people could try to attack our database through an SQL injection and then take our data out of it. But this was actually blocked, and since it was blocked by the IPS, it's really not a big deal because the IPS protected us like it was supposed to. So we can say that one is not that dangerous, and we'll move it down the list. Let's go to the next high. The next high we have is 4110, which is a buffer overflow attack, which again is another serious issue, but again, it was blocked by the IPS, and therefore it's not an issue for our systems. It wasn't successful in running that attack, even though the attack was attempted. The next one we have is another high at 4115, and it was anomalous privilege escalation detected. This means somebody was able to go from a regular account into an administrative account, or from a guest user into an authenticated user. But again, either way, this was blocked by the IPS, so once again, it doesn't affect our systems, and we can then push that to the side and look at the next high. The next high we have is 4120, which was an external brute force attack, and again, it was blocked, and so you're seeing the pattern here. If it was blocked, it's not as big of a deal for us because that was stopped by our defenses. Now, one of the things you do want to keep in mind though is even though these things are being blocked, you would want to see who is doing these attacks, and if it's the same person, you may want to go ahead and add in something like blocking their IP address or doing other things to prevent them from even getting to your IPS. But again, the IPS was doing its job here by blocking those issues. The next high we have is 4125, which was a network scan being conducted from an internal IP. Honestly, a network scan is not really that big of a deal. It can be an indication that somebody is going to attack you because they're performing reconnaissance, but the scan itself is not that dangerous. And again here, the IPS was able to contain that for us, so it wasn't really affecting our systems. And then finally we get to the high of 4130, which was the data exfiltration detected. It was an alert, not a block, and the admin was notified. So at this point, because it alerted on it, we need to go take action on it. If you look through some of the other ones, you do see some others that were alerted or monitored. In the case of the medium severity incident at 3301 in the middle of this page, you can see there was an ICMP echo ping request flood, and that was monitored. So this is something that was happening and we saw it happen, but we didn't stop it. Now again, this is just an echo request, which basically means they're trying to flood you with echo requests, and it would be an issue, but it's not a major issue like a data breach is. So again, the data breach will be much more important. And then as we look at some of the other ones that alerted, we had unusual outbound traffic patterns, we had excessive login attempts, we had suspicious file download activity, we had things like insecure protocols being detected, like maybe somebody was using Telnet instead of SSH, and we had ARP spoofing attempts detected, and we had unusual inbound traffic patterns, and we had multiple insecure login attempts. All of those were issues, but they were either medium or low, and they were alerted on, but they weren't blocked. But because we had that high data exfiltration and it was an alert and not a block, that becomes our most significant one, and the one that we need to focus our investigations on first with our cybersecurity analysts to be able to determine Was it successful? Were they able to exfiltrate data? And if so, how much data and what kind of data? Because now we'll be in the middle of an incident response and trying to clean up from this data exfiltration that happened and that was actually able to go through our IPS. So we're going to want to retune our IDS to block that in the future and not allow those kind of things from happening. All right, if you get something like this on the exam, remember, they're going to give you 4 choices. And out of those 4 choices, you might get 4 highs here. And what you want to look for is, were these blocked? If they were blocked, it's already been mitigated and it didn't have an effect on your network. But if it was an alert or a monitor, that means it made it through that network security appliance and it actually had an effect on your network. So you need to investigate it and figure out what they took and what they were able to steal during that data exfiltration.